Envision, what happens when smart glasses get really smart? Speakers, Karthik Mahadevan, co-founder, Envision. Moderator, Joe Devon, entrepreneur and accessibility advocate.
Thank you, Alice. It's my great privilege today to introduce Karthik Mahadevan, who is the CEO and founder behind Envision and the groundbreaking work in AI and accessible technology. Karthik, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and your company?
Yes, sure. Hi, Joe. I'm Karthik. I'm the co-founder of Envision. At Envision, we build AI-based software to help people who are blind or have a low vision independently access the world around them. It started with a smartphone app, but over the years, we have evolved to a smart glasses-based solution. So with just a tap of a button, people can access all kinds of information that would otherwise be inaccessible to them.
Great. And can you share a bit about the traction that you have with the company, and are things going the way that you envisioned, or have you had to pivot a little bit based on seeing how the reception was?
I think each year there's a a whole bunch of new insights and learnings to catch up with. This whole thing started as a student a project. So when we started, the intention was not really to build the kind of a company that we have today. So each year has been been a learning for us. On the app front, we're doing incredibly well. We have over 100,000 monthly active users of the app around the world who do use this app for all kinds of incredible use cases in their everyday life. The smart glasses, I think, is still a new experiment, sort of like a venture. For us, we have sold over 2,000 of them all over the world. So we are getting a lot of very useful and insightful insights on that as well. And the big hope is that as these glasses become a lot more accessible to people around the world, the application and the applicability of it also increases.
Wow, those are some impressive numbers. I'm just curious, how many people do you have in the company to support all of these users?
So we are 15 people in the in the company. It's mostly based in the Netherlands, but we also have folks all over the world, who work for us as well.
Cool. So before we dive deeper into Envision, let's just chat a bit about AI safety, because it's been a big concern of a lot of the AI luminaries out there. There's been some talk of legislating in different ways, for example, making it a little bit harder for open source models to just push out this powerful technology. And this recently culminated in some serious boardroom drama, as most people know, where OpenAI's CEO was fired, then 6 days later was rehired. I'm just curious, where do you see things? Do you think that we should regulate AI, and how do you see the open source versus the big tech companies providing the foundational technology? Where do you think the safety concerns lie, and how we should handle it?
Yeah. I think there's always a balance, like in things like this. Of course, there is a need for, like a regulation and a safety aspect, but it shouldn't step into the realm of over regulations where you just squash out any scope of innovation, right? So I think it is a fine like balance that has to be built, maintained. And I think the a way to achieve that is through education and awareness. I think a lot of people who are doing regulations are probably not aware of exactly what they're regulating, right? Because this whole AI landscape is evolving so fast that even for people like us who are in the business don't really understand a lot of the things that's going on. So I can imagine how it could be a bit scary or daunting for the regulators. So I think there is a need for people who are building this tool to do a better job at educating and spreading awareness of exactly what they're building, so that it can be regulated but appropriately, so there isn't any aspect of over regulations. And when it comes to open source and a company building stuff, I think over there also it's always going to be a balance, like it has always been when it has come to development of any kind of technology, be it operating system or the internet or anything. I think they'll always sort of go hand in hand. The big companies are the ones who have the data at the moment, like they are the ones who have over the years been able to sort of mine all this data that's available, and like a model is just as good as the data, and I don't think open source can like compete on that front. But there are other fronts where open source is a lot more useful in the way it's working. So I think it's always going to be like be a combination. So an ideal outcome is that they're both in operate in a complementary way instead of operating in like a competing way, I would say.
That's interesting what you're bringing up here about the data. The data is really the moat, isn't it? And so when you are building technology, if you're an enterprise company, you can take that combination of your data, and then do you build on top of open source, or do you build on top of one of the big tech companies' foundational models? Like what is the better path to take?
Yeah. So I would say for a company like us, right, like who are just starting out and are building stuff, like we pick the best, that's out there, from the perspective of a customer, right? Because that's like the people who we're serving, that's the people who are going to be like paying us. That's where our our revenue comes from. So when there is a decision making a process within Envision as to which of the model that's out there we need to pick and use, we do like a test and we pick the one that that actually is the best of the lot. And sometimes it happens to be an open source ones, that actually is doing a much better job as like compared to something from big tech, and sometimes it's the other way around. So I think this kind of like growth is actually super like helpful for for like folks like us who actually are building applications on top of these tools, because because as these tools start to exist, we sort of actually have the freedom to pick the best and offer the best to the customers at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, one of the big problems that we have, and a part of what people are complaining about on the safety, is the hallucinations. It introduces liability. It can lead people down the wrong path. How do you think that they should be handled? And do you think that it's ever going to be a solved problem? And what I mean by that part of the question is, sometimes there's facts, there's that maybe you can tell, and then there's sometimes where there's opinions where you have different perspectives. And are we trying to go too far if we say eliminate all hallucinations when there might just be conflicting opinions? So how do you think it should be handled?
Yeah. No, I think like hallucinations is a part of the technology. So the technology, it comes with both the good and the bad, and one of the bads is the hallucinations aspect of it, and it really stems from the fact that we don't really understand how these these sort of like neural networks like they work, right? We don't really understand exactly so how they operate, other than the fact that they're just predicting the next word in a sentence. So I think we will probably not be too good at understanding how they work in like short term, and as long as we don't understand how they work, there will always be issues like hallucinations. But that does not mean that it cannot still be a helpful tool for us, right? I think like a good example is ChatGPT itself, right? So ChatGPT, you hallucinates a lot, right? Depending on the prompt you give it and stuff that you ask it, there is always hallucinations that is a part of it, especially if you're trying to ask it for something something that is a factual. Your ChatGPT is not a good tool to go for like factual stuff. You might be be better off going to like Wikipedia or something like that. But there are so many other very incredible use cases of ChatGPT where you're okay with the hallucinations part, where you're okay with it sort of sort of not being 100% accurate, but still actually having an incredible immense use. And that's exactly how we see it when we're trying to incorporate these tools for our applications for increasing accessibility, right? Like it doesn't always have to get things 100% are right. Or sometimes even an 80% accurate information is a better thing for a user who has a 0% information at the moment. So I think what's important is that people should be aware of it, that hey, there is a possibility that these models will sometimes hallucinate, will sometimes talk about stuff that is not that's not actually like there in front of you. And as long as you have that awareness, and as long as you take every output from this AI with a pinch of salt, I think it's good, because then you can actually make the decision as to how much you want to actually put your faith in like output from an AI or not.
Yeah. And what's your experience been with the drift of LLMs there? Like lately, I found it very frustrating dealing with the requests to ChatGPT or DALL-E 3. The quality is all over the place. There's been a lot of talk in the last couple of days that it's gotten lazy. I even joked that ChatGPT has quiet quit, didn't like what was going on with the boardroom drama, and now it just literally says, "I don't want to code. I don't want to answer your question. Look it up yourself." There's been some interesting stuff. How hard is it to build when you see this drift where you don't have a consistent type of responses and you constantly have to update the prompting behind it?
Yeah. I think it's exciting, right? Like it's, I think there's like, I think it's sort of like, I think if you sort of or plot the development of of LLM or a generative AI on a chart, there will be ups and downs. It will have spikes, but when you zoom out, it's still all going up, right? The amount of like in terms of the capabilities of this AI, it is still going up, even though there are spikes up and down in in like the short term. So I think that a picture is what we are very excited about. That if you really zoom out, the amount of like progress and a growth we have achieved in a generative AI just in this year is immensely more than all of the past a decade sort of put together, right? The even a fact that we have something like a GPT, a vision that can actually give you such a description on the basis of an image, while 2 years back Envision was struggling with an AI which will only give it like a sentence, but even that would not be accurate, right? So much of a progress has happened. So we are okay with sort of like there being a bit of like fluctuations as we like tinker with this technology and tool to optimize it. But I think we should be so happy about like the progress that has been made in such a short period of time. I think there will be be the short time spikes up and down, but I think over a long enough timeline, this would be a period of immense progress in terms of what AI has been able to achieve.
Yeah, and speaking about that progress, Ray Kurzweil is looking really good right now. He kept telling everybody that you've got this exponential growth and our brains can only think about things as a linear growth. And the past year has certainly proven out that we're just seeing incredible improvements. And you've got the hardware and the software on all these different layers where the growth is rapid. Are we getting to the point where AI assistants like the glasses that Envision has, that we're going to have an angel on our shoulder that's going to be personalized to our own needs and wants and desires and just sit on our shoulder and guide us through life?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly like what Envision is building at this moment. If you were to ask me the same question in the beginning of this year, like my answer would be like yes, in about like 3 to 5 years, I think that is what we'll be able to achieve. But as of now, like my answer is that this is achievable. Like now. This is achievable with the technology that's available as of today, and that's what Envision is building. It's building these a personalized visual assistants that sort of understands you as a personality. It understands you. It understands the kind of stuff that you need. It understands sort of how you like your information. It understands a lot about you. So it's not just a general AI that you interact with. It's something that is really, really like personal to you. and it has a broad enough understanding of the world and the visuals ahead of you to be able to filter that information and offer that to you in a way that is actually not that is like digestible to you. So we always used to use this as a metaphor earlier, that it at like some point it'll be like having a bird on like your shoulder that you can talk with, but it feels like a reality today, like, and it has happened in such a fast sequence of time that having that kind of a bird on your like shoulder that you can interact with and ask for assistance is actually something that will happen like right now instead of in like 5 years.
Yeah, and what I liked in your website, so transformers were one of the big changes, leaps forward, and I like on your website how you're describing that that Envision is taking the environment and transforming or translating it into a spoken format. You're taking the visual and making it, just translating it sort of to another language. That Daryl Adams, the head of accessibility for Intel, he really described that that's what our future is going to be: personalized artificial intelligence that gives you the information you need. Because if you're blind, you have a very verbal life. If you are deaf, your life is very much visual. And if you're deafblind, maybe even haptics. Do you see haptics, AR, VR, or mixed reality, whatever is the hot way of referring to it now? Are you seeing that being a part of it too? Robotics as well? Like, what other technologies are going to be layered on top of AI and all of these transformers? What's the form factor?
Yeah, so it's basically sort of two big things that Envision is putting like bets on, right? Like a first thing is AI, especially generative AI. The way it has grown in the past 2 years, we're putting a bet on that it's going to continue that kind of a trajectory, and it is going to still have that explosive like growth over like next year. I think we're still just looking at the tip of the iceberg as to what's possible with the kind of AI that we're building today. So I think there is a big sort of growth happening in sort of the AI world. But there's another technological sort of progress that's actually starting to take off, and I think like next year is going to be a big like year for that. Is actually going to be like wearables, right? Especially a wearable cameras are actually going to make a big splash in the next couple of years. We are already seeing early like hints of it with like Meta partnering with like Ray-Ban, and they have these Ray-Ban smart glasses. We have this humane pin, which is like which has a form factor of a pin that you actually have on you, and all of these are very much betting on actually having AI as a part of these like smart glasses. Apple has like put its I would say hat in the ring with like a Vision Pro, which as of now is a big and a bulky like headset. But if you do extrapolate that, okay, now every year Apple is going to iterate on that and improve, you can actually extrapolate how in the next like 3 years Apple will probably have like a lightweight headset that they're going to go into, right? So there is a resurgence, and then there is a growth again happening in the wearable I would say hardware space. And I think when you do like like combine a wearable or like hardware with a generative AI, the combination of these two is exactly what's going to unlock that kind of like parrot in like shoulder kind of a feeling actually like for you. It's not going to be on your phone. It's not going to be something you have to like take out of your pocket and fiddle with like before you actually have access to the information. The access to information is going to be instantaneous, and that is only possible if there is a wearable that's always on you that you can just speak and engage with on a constant basis.
Yeah. The form factor is super interesting and challenging. I always thought in my own head, the benchmark for me for when we've really reached that AI assistant level is when a system will know every bit of food that you've eaten, been able to tell you how many calories you have ingested, because it really understands your environment to the tune that it knows every bite. But if you don't, I think glasses is probably a good form factor, but as someone who got the surgery to get rid of glasses, I don't want to be stuck with glasses for life. Is this going to be a brain implant one day? Is like the Tab, the founder of Tab, which is similar to the Humane pin, he felt that their mistake was making it a pin that's easy to pull off. People know that's a $700 item. They could pull it off because it's a magnet, that maybe a necklace is better. What do you think is the best form factor for a wearable?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a spectrum to begin with. I think everybody will have a personal preference for this. I think there will be people who will prefer a glasses kind of, like a form factor, because when something is on your head, it is so much easier to orient with your head. If you want to look at something specific and look for that information, it's a lot more easier to look around with the head. It's a lot closer to your like mouths. If you do want to have like a mic in it, it's just like a form factor that makes sense. But at the same time, there will be people who will be like, hey, I don't want something on my face, because when I talk to people, I don't want them to be looking at a camera on my face. I want them to be looking at me, right? So there will be people who will be like, hey, I am okay if it's a pin on like my chest. Or there'll be people who will be like, hey, I want it as a necklace. There might be people who will be like, I want it on my watch, something that I can actually have it on a wrist. So I do believe that there will be a spectrum of different pieces of like hardware, and I think different people will like gravitate towards like different kind of like form factor, which actually is a feature I'm super excited about, because I'm sort of getting bored of everybody having a phone that looks the same now. Everybody has like a rectangle in their pockets. So I'm actually excited about us exploring the industrial design of having all of these different kinds of like like wearable that's out there. But I think there will be probably a spectrum of these to begin with. Eventually, I think after a decade or so, we might sort of settle on a few that everybody agrees is the most comfortable option. But I think we are entering into a decade where everybody every year will have a new kind of a form factor that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, really excited for it. So now let's focus a bit on accessibility. What does the future look like for accessibility when you have a device that's going to be able to read a web page or an app and interact with it? Do we need accessibility subject matter experts anymore? Is it going to matter how a website is, what an ARIA label is, what the code looks like under the hood when the AI is just figuring it all out? What is it going to look like?
Yeah. I think there could be a trend that we start to just see, is that instead of people optimizing their tools, their websites and everything for all of these different kinds of screen readers or your magnifiers and things like that, there might be a trend that could start where people are optimizing it for AI, right? They're optimizing their websites for an AI to be able to access it in like the most easiest way. Very similar to how now every like website, it has like a like a robots.txt file, so that a search engine can scroll it easily and take the information like for it. There probably are going to be a similar embeds, maybe a visual embed in every like website, so that it's easier for an AI to be able to access the website and offer it in a personalized, accessible way to a user, right? So if I am a user who wants everything on a web page spoken out to me, and if my AI understands that, it is going to like look for that in the website and just speak out everything to me. But if I'm a person who only wants to have like the minimal information, then I can also like use that as a verbosity like settings for me. So I think that might be a trend we might start to see, where like a lot of these websites, instead of trying to like make it accessible to every kinds of like software, they might just make it accessible to AI, and then the AI can be a middleman to translate a website in a way to a person in the end.
Yeah, it sounds like almost a different kind of API for AI, which should be pretty easy to do because of how it works.
Yeah, I think it'll be like an AI centered a design instead of like a human centered a design. We're gonna design your websites or your stuff that are optimized for an AI to use instead of for like a human to use.
Yeah, interesting times ahead for the good and the bad. So we have about 1 minute. I could talk to you for hours, but we have only about a minute left. So I'm going to leave you, have you leave us with some final thoughts, and also how to contact you or pick up the Envision app or glasses.
Sure. You can reach out to us from our website, letsenvision.com. That's LETSENVISION.com. You can download our app on the App Store or the Play Store. The app is available for free for everyone. We do have these glasses that you can also just purchase from the website, or if you have a distributor available locally, they can also actually offer you these glasses. There's a lot of exciting developments under the hood that we'll be launching in the new year. So if you are somebody who wants to keep up with all of these AI developments, you should definitely stay in touch with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks everyone.